Good afternoon, everyone. Connie Myers here, and I hope you're having a fabulous beginning of your week. I am so excited. Uh, this woman who is, excuse the fly, I'm in my she shed. um, this woman and I met about 3 years ago, probably around 3 years ago. And I was so enchanted the first time I heard her speak. I was like, now this is a go getter. And I got the opportunity to actually share a room with her at one of the Awesome Females in Real Estate conferences. And so we really got to know one another. And I absolutely think she's one of the most interesting and charming ladies I know. Please let Christine Lee, thank you so much for joining me today. Yes, it is awesome. We had a little bit of time at the Woman Up event to spend a little bit of time afterwards, and it was really good to catch up because we hadn't really spoken in a while, so it was fun to catch up with you. So, my very first question to everybody I interview is: were you a leader as a child? Well, I can certainly tell you that you've overcome that. So, how did you become the Christine that you are today? I mean, what kind of path did you have, and how did you get over? I mean, lots of us have shyness. I was extremely shy. You would never know it today, but I was extremely shy as a child, and it took years. So, how did you go from being a shy little girl to this powerhouse you are today? Wow, that is such good advice for anyone that has shyness or is just afraid of speaking up. Maybe they're not shy, they just don't know when to say something. So that's incredibly invaluable input for anybody. So tell us a little bit about your journey. What kind of work? How did you start out, and then how did you get to be where you are today? What- Oh, okay. Hold on, Angela. Thank you for pointing that out. Let's see here. Um, yeah, I'm not sure why it's. Oh, I know why. Okay, hold on. That's why.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
That's
you
funny.
know, Be Live TV has this brand new. They got this brand new package, and everything is different than the old package. So I guess that was my fault. I do apologize. I didn't hit the right button. So okay, so we're going to start over again so people can actually hear you. So
Uh,
this is my wonderful friend Christine Lee, and Christine and I have, even though there's a huge age difference, I have learned to so admire you. But what is it that Angela is saying here? I can't see.
oh, she's saying, oh, now she can see both of us.
Okay, good, good. So I've got to know Christine over the last few years, and I just absolutely admire and love her to death. So, Christine, I had asked you before you were up on screen, were you a leader as a child?
Okay, so since I had my like dress rehearsal, maybe I could say it even better. Okay, I'm like, what did I say? So the answer was absolutely not. I was not like a leader, like a born leader. There's people who are like born leaders. They have magnetic personalities. Like they can go out to the middle of a park and people just gather around them. If you stick them in the middle of a group, they just emerge as a leader. You know those people? That's not me at all. Like the antithesis of that is me, to the point where I was so painfully shy as a kid. I could hardly engage people. Like I wanted to have fun with others, but I didn't know how to approach them. I don't know why, to this day, why I was so frozen with fear. And also to the extreme where, I moved to a small town in Michigan. And the first girl that became my bestie asked me like, oh, what's your name? She's just like super, happy and friendly. And I was like, my name is Hemi, and that was my Korean name. And she's like, well, do you have an American name? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, my middle name is Christina. And she's like, oh, Christine? Okay, Christine. And I'm like, wait, no, I said Christina. And then literally that's why I'm known as Christine today. It's because I was so shy. I couldn't even speak up enough to correct her. And now I'm just like, you can't shut me up. So it's like complete opposite, but it's been quite the journey. And so hope to those who have, a fire in their belly, but you don't see yourself as like the natural born stereotypical leader. It's like, no, leadership comes in all shapes and sizes. And sometimes you're a late bloomer like me, and not a leader in the, conventional sense. So I definitely want to rewrite the definition on what leadership looks like, and how really everybody has leadership muscles and capacity that is like unexplored. You know how we say we only use like, some minuscule percent of our brain? It's like, well, I feel the same thing about our leadership muscle, is that most of us only use a small fraction, like, let's say 5% of our leadership muscle. And we have so much more to like be able to lift up and raise than what we're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you've done an incredible job, and you're an inspiration to anybody that comes around you. Um, so how did you go from this very shy, who couldn't even speak up to give somebody the right name, to who you are today? What was that journey like, and how did you do that?
Man, it's like an ongoing journey. Certainly, it literally took me like decades, of like kind of getting out of that shell and just other people coming into my life. But I would say the one thing that helped me peck through each like layer, you know, if I was like a little chickadee in an egg and I had to like peck through the one egg to come out of the next egg, it's just that having that fire in the belly. So I think anybody who is less loud, not as, you know, boisterous and shy, but has a fire in the belly and really wants to make an impact or difference. Like, leadership doesn't mean that you have to be loud. And that perseverance and curiosity, I think, was key for me in making sure that I can continue to grow, continue to ask, like be like passionately curious, like annoyingly curious, okay? Like shamelessly curious, if you will, as well. And just keep persevering to grow, and, you know, still run into dead ends and butt your head up against walls, but like, you know, either find a way around it, over it, through it, whatever it may be. That's kind of
wow. Well, I have to say, you probably are. You are probably one of the most curious people I know today. So that speaks volumes for. And actually, don't you think being curious and asking questions or inquiring from other people helps overcome shyness? Because if all you're doing is asking questions and you're just curious about something, that really goes a long ways. And really, asking questions is a key element to being a great leader. So what did you do to start your career, and how did you end up with your current company?
Start my career. I mean, I started my first business when I was 16, and that came out of a need. The story of my life is basically I scratched my own itch. Okay. So I apparently was very itchy as a human being. And so the first itch that's notable was when I was 16, I had like this obsession with like Japanese cartoons, right? And like to get more of it, it like costs money. And I'm like in high school, and I'm, you know, as a high school kid, you're like broke as a joke. And I found out that you could be like a distributor, and I learned how to put a web page on. That's how I first learned like HTML code, tossing up a web page for anime distribution, and I ended up serving like 16 different countries, distributing anime and getting all these machines and learning how to like. I literally went into a VCR repair shop and said, "Hey, can I come and just like observe and learn?" And here's this like 16-year-old kid coming in, and these two guys are like, "Is your parents around? Like, can they give permission?" Like, like we don't want to get in trouble. So my dad had to come and like give them permission. And they were like, okay. And we became friends, but just things like that. I would go and volunteer and ask like, hey, window tinting. I'd go hang out window tinting place because I wanted to learn how to window tint, you know, and just hang out and say, hey, free labor, I'll work for free. And do a lot of that at just random places, and just get used to getting weird looks, but you'll get your yes.
Absolutely, you will get your yes. Perseverance always wins. So tell us about Seize the Market, and your, you know, how did that come about, and how did you, because you're a pretty techie gal.
Yeah, so I'm a geek at heart, and somehow that path led me to selling real estate and getting my real estate license. One of my mentors, I went from running in like being a techie for a real estate office, like being an attic rat, running cables, and doing like just punching holes in drywalls and running wires and stuff like that, and building computers, to getting into real estate, learning how to appraise. And then he was an investor, so I was flipping homes with him after haggling him, like hounding him for a year to let me in on a project. So there's that perseverance, right? Like, it's a double-edged sword. I'm like pretty annoying. So he gave in, and like I was the last one on the list, you know, to be in the queue to be in on a project, and I waited it out. So that got me into real estate sales and getting a license. And somehow I ended up at a workshop about landing pages, right? Way like before it was like super hot. And next thing I know, I'm getting like leads out the wazoo. And so that kind of scratching my own itch. Literally, I had like, you know, those 3-inch binders, like pages and pages of like leads printed out and needing to follow up with them. I'm like, this is insane. And I knew how to, or I learned how to put a database together, an online like portal, so I can have my own little task follow-ups and kind of hack that together, and was using it. And it was more effective than the paid products out there. And so that led me into an abundance of leads. I'm like, I can't work these all by myself. And then I was in my pursuit of learning, something comes across, it's like something about growing the business or hiring somebody, and I just like go to those courses or do research. So I ended up building a real estate team. And lo and behold, there was not a software solution to my liking that was designed for building a real estate business that allowed you to treat it like a business, like a complete software solution. I had like 82 different logins, and it was ridiculous. So I ended up just starting a company called Seize the Market to scratch my own itch. And it serves agents, and now it serves brokerages that are learning to recruit, because again, I was scratching my own itch. We were massive into recruiting. We were recruiting, like setting 40 recruiting appointments a week, consistently leveraging the new trainees using like the dialer, and we're just like going at it. So that's how the recruiting module came about. And now that's a tool for brokers who want to recruit consistently and effectively.
That is impressive. I love scratching your own itch, and what a way to serve others. Yeah. So, what kind of mindfulness practices do you do with your team? And first of all, how big is your team? And then what kind of mindfulness practices do you do? Because you're very much a thoughtful leader. So what do you do to help keep your team congruent?
Yeah. So we have a team of about 12 to 15 people. And let's see, in terms of mindfulness practice, I realize I'm doing some things that I don't call mindfulness, but it is, it's like I do it without even knowing it. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term mindfulness, if this word lands with you, it's just being like energetically aware, right? Aware of like the energy, the positive, the ones that drag you down, the ones that lift you up, and doing things to help lift up the energy of others. So, and that's kind of how I thought of it. So when you said mindfulness, I was like, no, I don't know. I'm like, oh. So one thing that I do is, at our huddles with our team, we start out with, tell me something great, and everybody, does that. But what also I add is, like, I'll take a group, let's say our inside sales team, and they come in and, depending on their profile, some of them are shy to begin with, that are more like appointment setters, the more light touches versus like the high Ds. And the ones that are shy, I especially love kind of like getting them out of their shell. And I literally won't start the meeting. So I want my team to operate without me. So I literally, in 24 hours, when they first come in, it's like, hey, we do, and we even have a recorded example of what our morning session sounds like. So it's like, okay, tell me something great. It's like, hey, you guys kick it off. We're not doing anything till somebody leads the pack, right? So somebody has to come in and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm leading the pack today. Something great that happened. Tell me something great for me is blah, blah, blah. And we do one personally and professionally. And then a good thing is that we've done the practice of, okay, they tag the next person, because I love it. The little silence of like, okay, I'm done. And then everybody's like, do, do, do. And it's like such a massive waste of time. I'm like, why are we waiting in silence? So I'm like, okay, you got to tag the next person. And then that like keeps the pace going. And then not only that, in my more core direct reports that are operationally closer to me, we do an exercise of give me something to say yes to. And I don't know if that would be considered mindfulness, but I consider it like exercising a leadership muscle. So number one, I don't ever want to be the one coming out with solutions all the time, because it's like, it takes energy from me. And again, I don't want to be the factory for solutions, and I want the company to run without me. So I don't care what the problem is. And eventually, even if I do have to step in, like, they always have to give me something to say yes to, like come to me with a solution, no matter how good, bad, small, big it is. And then we can tweak it together from there. So they hear that from me all the time. And what's been cool about it is that one of my team members, she has, 3 young children. She started using the technique of give me something to say yes to her children. And so she's like, it works great. It works on kids too, you know? So she's like, Mommy, can I have dinner? She's like, well, give me something to say yes to. And then they come with a solution. So that's kind of where I got the idea of, this can be used in more than one generation, and led me to like kind of playing around with that concept with some kiddos.
And that was going to be my next question. Please tell us about what you're doing with the kiddos, because it's a very heartwarming and wonderful thing that you're doing.
Yeah. So, you know, it came from the premise that there's a huge leadership gap, you know, in our world. If you think about it, the more leaders that we have, the better we'll be, because right now, life, society, education trains us to be, you know, good employees, but not good leaders. We are, you know, designed to follow rules, but never, you know, not really ask questions or come up with solutions or be, you know, creative and innovative. Like that fire is not really, you know, sparked at a high level consistently. And so I consider that to be a brief description of the leadership gap. So how can we exercise the leadership muscle earlier and quicker? So I just started reaching out to, you know, high schools and churches to see if there was any space where they wanted, you know, they would allow me the time to deliver a message of like, wake up leader. And so the premise is that, you know, you're a leader, whether you know it or not. So you can choose to be a great one or a destructive one. The choice is yours. And that applies for kids. That applies for mothers, like mothers who say, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom, makes me cringe. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I would rather run 5 businesses than have like 5 kids, right? Like, and be a stay-at-home mom. And I say that from the aspect of like, there's no off button, right? Like, at least with a business, I'm always in the mindset of like, how can it run without me? Well, you can't like say that to a 5-year-old, like, hey kid, like figure out how to run without me. I'll exercise your leadership muscle and there you go feed yourself. Like it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
It's a huge respect to mothers. And when I hear language like that, I just realize how people don't look at themselves as leaders. And if we did, if we owned that, if a mother, because the mother, if anything, they protect their children at all costs. If they know that their level of leadership will impact their children's lives and their future, like, could that help them own that role, own that leadership role a bit more and cause them to want to lead at a higher level, right? And so anyway, so that bleeds into, you know, motherhood, that bleeds into kids, because if the kids can at a young age start looking at themselves as a leader and hear the language that they're a leader, and the fact that leaders come in all shapes and sizes. And I share the story of, you know, how I couldn't even like, you know, correct somebody on the right pronunciation of my name. And now I can, you know, negotiate, you know, multi-million-dollar deals, no problem, and go to somebody who's worth $100 million and just be frank and hit them right between the eyes with truth and not bat an eye. You know, like, how do you go from one to the other? And it's just all about exercising the leadership muscle. If there was somebody that was not born with leadership muscles, that is me, okay? And so if I can come out on this end, so can you, you know? And knowing that you can be a leader from like, you know, up front, which is kind of the more stereotypical one, but also from behind. So people who are in operations or people who are like mothers, you know, like the behind the scenes magic workers, and or from the side, you know, like that encouragement or that nudging of helping a friend or giving that encouraging word or a colleague, coworker, and helping them, you know, level up, even if it doesn't mean leveling you up, you know, directly. And so just leadership from all different sides, and letting kids, adults, you know, adolescents just experience and see that.
Wow. Well, I am absolutely, I think it's absolutely incredible that you're working with kids, because what age group are you starting with in working with them?
Well, I've had the pleasure of going with all age groups. So from high schoolers to middle schoolers, or even like the 5 to 12-year-olds, where they're literally so antsy. And I consider that the most challenging crowd, because if they're not interested, they don't have the politeness like learned yet to even like sit still and at least like, you know, eyes glaze over quietly. No, they start like looking around. They're like having side conversations. They're literally rolling around on the carpet. Like, if you have turned them off or they're not interested. So it is so fun, because then with them, they'll do things like, if you ask them, hey, let's scream and yell, and on 3, 2, 1, say yes. They're like, yes. So their energy is like so fun to play with. So yeah, all ages so far,
So what is your I can't remember what you said that your initiative is called. What is your work with kids? What did you call it? It was a really cute name.
Yeah, so it's called Wake Up Leader, and it's kind of a double entendre, because it's about waking up the leader that's inside them, waking up also their awareness that they are a leader, right? And once you wake up, then you can also be a wake up leader. So you wake up other leaders, right? And then afterwards, you can be an awakened leader. So yeah, there's kind of like a little trilogy thing going there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Christine, I can't tell you how much I admire what you do, and your energy is just off the charts. So I can't even imagine you being shy and not able to speak up.
Yeah, I know. But it was me for a very, very, very long time. I was very, I definitely, kind of had my own world going, and was weird. I'm still weird, but I'm just weirder with like a louder voice, and now I'm like not sorry about it at all. Like, I just own it. And so that's a much better way of living.
It is. Well, you're owning something pretty special. So there you go.
Thank you.
Well, I can't say enough. I appreciate you so much. I've loved getting to know you and spending time with you, both in person as well as this way. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they find you?
Well, my website is seizethemarket.com. And also you can reach out by going to our chat or by Facebook, Christine Lee. And then you can look up Christine Lee or seizethemarket.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I really appreciate your time and what a charm you are. And I apologize for the little glitch at the beginning, but we got it figured out. So thanks again for joining me. And anybody that wants to reach out to somebody fun, if you're shy, this might be a person you might want to talk to. So anyway, so Christine, thanks a lot, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Connie.